My
Live now.
Hi, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and it's still not live on my end, but now it's live. Now we're both live. We're both alive.
We returned from the dead. Yay!
What a trip it was.
It was amazing.
Anyway, we are the CRM players, and guess what, folks? We've been bringing the ads
Zzz.
for almost 16 years at this point.
Since the last time the Yankees won the World Series,
Wow.
or even were in the World Series.
So is there some kind of a coinky dink around that?
It has to be. On our 15th anniversary, the Yankees make the World Series.
Wow.
Is
Okay.
that coincidence? I don't think so.
Anyway, yes, we are the CRM players, and it's a beautiful Thursday afternoon here in Atlanta.
Here too, actually, nice weather. Yesterday and the day before, hot. Today is perfect.
Although I am wearing a hoodie because, quite honestly, this is one of my new hoodies, and I wanted to wear it.
You're getting very color coordinated with the hats too. I've noticed lately.
Well, it's funny. I had this hat for years. I got this just like a week or two ago, but luckily, I seem to have a ram colored hat for every occasion at this point. So when I saw this, like, hey, that looks familiar, and then it kind of matches right with that.
It does. Although the hat has the old logo.
No, it's not. It's not the old logo. It's just.
Oh, you're right. It looks different than the logo that's on your jersey there.
Well, this is the letter jersey, not the actual logo.
Oh, I can't.
So it's LA, and it's kind of spelled with a horn.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, yeah. So, oh, by the way, guess who's here?
Oh, thank God.
No, it's just Sven. It's
well, that's Spanish. That's pretty easy. And but it's also, I got to give it to Sven for this one. He's quoting Mahatma Gandhi in Spanish. I mean,
okay. So what does it say?
Let's see. I don't know. I know "in the world" is the last three words. En el mundo is in the world. Debe ser el cambio que deseas ver en going in the world. Says maybe the last four.
Going in the world,
something like that. The last four
going where?
Words. I don't know. Debe ser el cambio que deseas. I don't know.
I just realized the background color is kind of coordinated with me.
Yeah, I noticed that actually.
Well, I need all the coordination I can get because we're playing.
AI is noticing Ram jerseys.
Well, it's Thursday night football, and unfortunately, my Rams are playing, so I got to brace myself because we're playing the Vikings, and I already have like ancient hate for the Vikings to begin with. But
back to the 70s.
Yes, sir.
No.
Anyway, oh wait a minute, we got the update. So it's Spanish. You must be the change you wish to see in the world.
I got
very nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
Sven, you outdone yourself today. Congrats, man.
Sven is going zen.
That's whoa.
The moment of zen is there it is. Anyway, yeah, we have a interesting show lined up for you. But before we do any of that kind of stuff, we do have some housekeeping issues because we're going to be out and about next week.
That's right. We're user testing. Holy cow.
There it is. The user testing.
This is there.
You know what this stands for?
I forget, but I know it. I've seen it multiple times, but I completely forgot.
It stands for the Human Insight Summit, I believe.
Yeah, and the 2 user testings, amazing credit. They are focused around humans, not AI, as much.
Yeah, human testing would not be good. Not anyway, you're having a little fun here. So but we're really excited because we get to see some folks that we haven't seen in quite a long time.
Well, there's at least 3 and maybe a 4th.
Well, we'll do this. We'll do this one.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of our featured conversation while we're at this next week. And it just so happens to be with one of our favorite CRM players guests of all time.
And a player in residence in the period he wasn't working at a vendor for a short while. And then he got a job at a vendor, which of course you can always give CRM Playaz credit for. Um, but he was a player in residence. Jamie Anderson. I mean, one of the best, smartest, and good humored rock stars in the entire industry.
Actually, he's a
Are
literal rock star
none.
too.
Yeah, literally a rock star. You're exactly right. His band in the well, actually, let's save it for when we talk to him. I don't not go through his history now. When you guys get to see this interview, we'll talk. We'll talk a little bit about his and our history with him.
Well, one thing is for sure, we're going to talk about impersonations.
Oh yes,
Yes. So, Jamie, we'll be glad to see you next week, but you know what we'll be expecting. So just get ready.
Just remember, Zulu, Alfie.
Wow, Zulu.
Yeah, first one ever for that gentleman. Good movie, by the way. Good
Okay.
movie.
Yeah, and well, like you said, we're really looking forward to seeing Susie Penner because she's
Yep.
been our buddy for
Oh my
years.
God, many years. In fact, Susie is the one who actually created the. She was actually one of the pioneers of and first,
Influencer or
yeah,
independent analyst.
yeah, basically the one who figured out independent analysts have some importance and clout, and she pioneered a program at Oracle. And believe me, she she's tough as nails. This young woman, I mean, really tough as nails. And she pushed it through despite opposition. She called it bloggers program to get around all the other crap she had to deal with at Oracle at the time. And there was a program, the first one to my knowledge, where independent analysts had a say and a voice at a vendor of significance.
She was the first one to recognize that influencers were people too.
Yes. Yeah, she is awesome. And then recently, Jonathan Reed.
Is that how you pronounce it? I thought it was Johan.
Well, I call him Jonathan.
Oh, okay.
It is Johan Reed. I've called him Jonathan since the day I met him. I anglicize everybody.
Somebody say why is that?
No, I just did that.
You know who you sound like?
Who?
Somebody running for president, always messing up somebody's name.
Oh no. I'm on the other side. So Johan, just to be fair, you're right. Johan Reed is he's another now see he doesn't his profile's always been kind of in the middle, like meaning he would show up in high profile stuff and then he'd disappear and then he'd show up again and then he'd disappear, but he was always there. The thing is, this guy is so operationally smart and he's just a great voice. Like when he's out there being in public. I remember an event he did with Ari Hoffman many years ago when Ari was still at Mind Touch. And I literally ran across him walking down the street in San Francisco and he was waiting outside. And I went to the event he did and he was fantastic. And he always is. And Johan is, the best way to put it is it's going to be so good to see him. And the one I hope we will see, who's still on the board, is Andy McMillan, who we've all known since Acton. He's the former CEO of User Testing, recently moved from the position to something else. But I'm hoping he'll be there too, because I'd love to see Andy. Another one of these guys who you don't see tons of him out there, but when you do, you just really like what he's got to say and who he is.
And also Paige Musto.
Oh, that's right. Paige is there too. Holy cow.
Yeah, well, we're going to be having dinner with her and Susie. So absolutely.
That is so good. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I didn't see our entire schedule yet. I know I have it. I just didn't see it. So there's 5 people at this company User Testing that we are going to love seeing and speaking with and hanging out with.
Cool.
Wow.
So that's next week. And like right after we get back, I do have one other because last week I said I was going to be talking to Brad Birnbaum from Customer on the 31st. So that has been postponed. But luckily for me, I get a chance to speak to Brett Weigel, who is over at Genesis heading up their AI efforts. And we're going to be talking next week, next Thursday, Halloween, All Hallows, whatever they call that, at a special time, noon Eastern. So
Wow.
that'll be
So
good.
you're going to be running. I'm going to be competing with you
Well, not really, but
on Talking Headless. So the so I we have the players that day too, of course,
yep.
the two of us, and I have two shows that day also because normally it would have been on the Wednesday, but we're traveling on the 30th, so it'll be on the 31st. So we're going to be doing. I'll be doing Talking Headless, and there's two guests I'm waiting to. One from Talking Headless, I'm waiting to hear from. One is committed. I have the committed person is the AR person, and that's Stephanie Trihane of Zoom, who will be talking to us
Just
about
saw her for the first time last week.
in person finally. Um, and we're going to be talking about Zoom is undergoing a massive transition as a company. How does AR handle that kind of thing when you're just going to a new place, right? And then I'm not going to say I have two, one guest who I'm waiting for a final commitment on for the analyst part, and then Ken that will be at also noon on Thursday, and then um, Kenny Lauer and I are going to be doing EWPK, and we're waiting on one of two guests. One to wait on which one commits. Uh, One is a pair of restaurateurs, and the other one is a former, um, not long lived, but a former NBA player. So we'll see how this all goes. We're waiting to hear. Um, well, there'll be further announcements a little later.
Cool. All right. I was trying to think, is there anything else I got here? No. Okay. So we have, whoa, wait a minute. What the heck?
But
Somebody just popped up that I wasn't expecting to see.
in the
Well, now she's gone. Anyway. So what do you think of yesterday's happy hour? That was kind of interesting. We've been batting around this whole, we digging into the AI and the what AI has done to like enterprise app investment. And we've been having these conversations and getting some really interesting things about not just what it's going to do to investment, but what it seems to potentially could do with enterprise app infrastructure, which is there's like sort of two sides of the fence going on here. One is the potential to basically disrupt or recreate a new infrastructure that kind of is unstructured data centric. And then there's the kind of the other side who's saying, nah, it's not going to go that far. You're always going to need structured data at the center.
and there was the third side,
What's that?
my rant.
Oh, yeah. Well, AI doesn't matter until
No, it
somebody
wasn't AI doesn't matter.
until
It
somebody
only matters when it's got something that it can do usefully, right? So whether it's structured data or unstructured data isn't the issue. It's what is AI going to do for help people do what they do, and then how that utilizes structured and unstructured data, or if it does, um,
or
that'll be determined by what it's going to be doing.
or if the way to help folks with this is to make it easier to use unstructured. I don't know, but
I
it's
don't
interesting.
either.
There's a lot of discussion, a lot of conversation around that. Um, so I think, and then I just literally saw the Brohammer at a post because he's over at the UI Path conference, and he put up a post around this area and where there may be some companies being disrupted sooner than others. Not any of the big boys that we're used to talking about, but there's something going on here, and we don't know exactly what it is, but it feels like there's going to be some level of disruption in some way to actually get unstructured data to a point where it's actually, I don't know what people will do with it, but they'll be able to do something with it. And I think part of the discussion is people don't even know how to use structured data, right? So why are we worried about the unstructured? So there's a lot of stuff going on with this. It's really a fascinating thing, and to see kind of the camps starting to come out is it's
Yeah.
kind of fun to me.
I mean, it's at a certain level, it's fascinating, even though I still think it's a little academic right now. Um, but um, the one thing you've ever noticed about all the big technologies or all the disruptors, the things that are somewhat disruptive, ultimately they mature and sort themselves out, or they get sorted out. I don't want to say they don't actually sort themselves out ever. Even AI, which is when it's self-learning and agentic, isn't going to sort itself out. It's going to be sorted out. And that and that's driven by need, right? Pretty much 100%. Okay, we needed to do something like this. Okay, how would it do that? Well, it needs to do this, 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 and this. And somebody said, well, if it does it, for example, if it does it this way, there'll be an incremental increase in value and productivity, et cetera, et cetera. But if we direct it to go this way, meaning completely transform how the applications are used, or how enterprise what do you call it enterprise infrastructure is utilized, there's a potentially what's the word multiplicative value from it. So, and then the humans make the choice, right? Let's go for that higher risk, but let's get AI there, or that, or let's do both, or let's do neither. But ultimately, the problems present themselves, the opportunities to solve the problems in multiple ways sort themselves, and then people decide which approaches they want to take or not. And human species has done that the entirety of its existence. AI is, to me, look, again, I'm not a fool, man. I mean, I know that it is huge. I don't think it's a bigger. I still don't think it's a bigger transformation than the internet is, or was. The internet is literally how everyone literally leads their life for the most part at this point. 90, or at least probably 70% of the world's population, at least. And that's just me making up a number, so don't hold me to it. But AI could get there, but it all depends on problems to be solved, jobs to be done, et cetera, et cetera.
Whoever LinkedIn users, let us know who you are. Says AI has the potential to make real-time on-demand applications a reality.
Yeah, sure.
There's a potential to do a lot of stuff, actually.
Well, it's microservices too. I mean, microservices, you kick microservices into action in real time. I mean, they're already doing that, right, to a large extent. So no reason why I couldn't do it with apps.
I think the potential, once again, unstructured data is there's kind of exponentially more unstructured data than there is data, structured data. But there really hasn't been any real way to really capture it in a way that people can do something. Like we talked about this, with Zoom. How many people sit in Zoom meetings, 5 or 6 Zoom meetings a day? There's a lot of stuff going on in those meetings, and I'm I'm thinking the vast majority of it is never actually utilized by anyone.
Read.ai.
Oh, look who it is.
Howdy, sir. Getting to see your old buddy Kevin today, huh?
Very cool. All right. Now, before we move on, don't you have some announcement about a certain award?
Yeah. So, okay, we're now heading toward the home stretch of the CRM Watchlist Grand Finale Awards. Now, the final award winners will be announced on January 22nd at our IRL 2025, the 15th anniversary celebration of CRM Playaz on the 16th anniversary. There are some 25, 26 categories ranging. It covers big grand awards, these GFAs, the big grand finale awards, which are global impact kind of awards for companies, people, and companies and people primarily. Then there are product awards, there are company awards, and there are people awards in the categories. We have a panel of 37 analysts and who will be making the choices. What's going to happen in the next few days, and I'd like anyone in the public's support of this. On LinkedIn, I'm going to produce a fairly extensive post describing the awards and some of the categories, which I'll release over several days. I want to get feedback from all of you on your choices. Now, to be honest, the analysts will decide, but your inputs will be important. This will be, who are your top three choices, say, for the best CX platform? Who's your top three choices for the best CEO or the best executive assistant? Who's your top three choices for the best use of CX and customer engagement programs at a company? And so on and so forth. The best platforms, the best there's a lot of categories which will be published. I want feedback. Please put it on LinkedIn as comments when the time comes. There'll be other ways for you to do that too. Watch for it, probably starting tomorrow. Okay, I have to still finish the post. I'm about 2/3 done. So it's a big deal. This is the culmination of the CRM watch list. As you know, the main award was sunset last year, but this is a very different approach. We have 37 significant analysts in the industry who are going to make the choices here on which these are lifetime achievements. So this could be someone you knew 30 years ago who's retired. It doesn't matter. You'll understand it when you see it. So public input, really important. Would like your support in that. Watch for it on LinkedIn, and we'll see you soon.
All righty. Very nice. And, that should be followed up by something of very substance, very substantial, something that, quite honestly, the people want. Yeah. And we're here to give the people what they want. We're here to give the people what they want. What they want is this.
And now it's time for Stump the Godfather with the venerable Paul Greenberg. Brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot.
Just let it ride out. Got to let Benny just ride out.
Yeah.
All right. Now this is a little different. This is a little like
the answer is $4 million.
Multi-format, multimedia.
I thought it was the
Stump the Godfather.
I thought it was Otani's bat.
No, that'll be tomorrow night. Hopefully. Well, not hopefully for you guys. All right. So this week's question brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot. And this comes by way of one of our recent conversations with seed, or he calls himself Inception Investor, with seed investor Ed Sim from Bold Start Ventures. The percentage of seed rounds greater than $5 million in 2018 was 9. Well, that's was 9 to 10%. All right. So let me read that again because I have a with in it that really doesn't need to be in there. The percentage of seed rounds greater than $5 million in 2018 was about 9 to 10%. What was it in Q2 of this year? So if it was 10% 6 years ago, what is the percentage of seed investment greater than $5 million this year?
Oh, I've got a great answer for this one.
Okay. So anybody out there, it doesn't look like there's a lot of folks out there today, but anybody who wants to take a guess, put it in the comments. In our guest who is in the green room, feel free to put it in the private chat and we'll let folks know what your guess is. But what percentage of seed investment is over $5 million now, Q2 2024? 10% 6 years ago. What is it now? Oh, we do have a guest in the private. Okay. 15% says our guest. 15%. That might be our only guess. Bob, what about you, Bob? You got a guess on that one? We got 15%.
Sven, guess?
Is Sven still awake?
I have no idea. Let's see. Well, Bob's is the same time zone as he is.
Well, do you want to go ahead and give your guess?
Yeah, this is a perfect guess. I have no idea.
Okay.
That's the guess.
No, that's not the guess.
Oh, I thought it was a good guess.
No.
I know I'm right.
Well, you're right.
One guess where I win because I'm right.
No, that's not the right answer, but you're.
But I'm right about the guess.
Yeah, but that's not the right answer.
I still win.
No, you don't win.
I win because I got the right. I had the right.
Where is
guess.
Patrick, by the way? We need some wolves or something.
I know. Well, oh, you know why? Rebecca's off at a conference somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Rebecca. I'm talking about Patrick.
Well, you know, he needs his translator.
Patrick should be right.
He needs
should
a
be watching.
translator.
All right. So what? So give a numerical percentage guess.
18. I'm just literally making that up. I'm just going 3% higher than Kevin, who's probably much closer to reality than I am.
All right. So we got 15%, and we've got 18%, and Bob is just straight up ignoring us at this point, but that's okay. We still like him. All right. So the answer to this week's Stump the Godfather question is 20%.
Wow.
Now,
Say a
let me
lot.
tell you, let's get to the actual multimedia part of this. Check this out.
I looked at the data from PitchBook once again. In 2018, the percentage of rounds that were greater than $5 million in 2018 was about 9 to 10%. And the percentage of rounds that were greater than $10 million is probably 1%. Fast forward to the end of Q2, the percentage of rounds greater than $5 million this past year, 20%. The percentage of rounds greater than 10, 7 or 8%.
Wow.
That one grew even more, like
Yeah. That's
7x, 8x.
yeah. Rather than basically 2.
Double.
Yeah. That's amazing.
There's a lot of money out there.
Yeah. I wish I had some of it.
I wish I had some of it too. Yeah. So, and that's like seed investing. We're not talking about the
No.
big boys, you know.
No, that's the little baby startups.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much money out there, and AI is the one driving all of this stuff. Remember, because last week we shared that one screen about like Gen A, and it's Gen AI actually.
Yeah.
Gen AI made up like 40% of the overall investments.
Yeah, I know.
It's amazing.
It's ridiculous. But yeah.
It's like the gold rush era.
Yeah. And you know, I remember how that turned out.
Yeah, it
Right.
worked out well for the dude selling the picks and shovels and jeans.
Exactly. Exactly right. That's exactly right.
All the
people who sold
suckers
the
thinking they're
pans
gonna get
and-
rich, you know, those guys, the tin pans, nah, they ain't making nothing.
No, but the people who had the tin did really great. Tin beat gold.
Hey, look, there are gold, and then there are algorithms and them GPUs, you know. So we know the NVIDIAs of the world are going to do just fine. Yeah, they'll be okay.
Yep.
Anyway, that was Stump the Godfather, brought to you by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Copilot. Was that a good one this week?
It was all right. I can't say I loved it, but I would have rather done how much Shohei Ohtani's bat sold for. I would have gone. I would like that one.
How much was that?
4.3 million.
Damn.
That's the bat that he hit 50 homers with, but it was the 50-50 season, and it beat all previous records by about twice.
Well, 50-50. That's a quite
Judge's 62nd home run bat sold for like 1.6, I think.
okay.
None of it, anything to sneeze at, man. Those bats were cost about $18 to make.
One of them Louisville Sluggers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now is the part of the show where I turn things over to the venerable Paul Greenberg to introduce today's guest.
Okay, so this is a treat. I have known this guy since he was the vice president of industries at Siebel. That's how long I've known him. I met him all the way back in the aughts, right? And look, did a great job. Industries, Siebel was a pioneer in industry-specific applications, as he, I'll give you his name in a minute, and Bob Stutz could tell you. Siebel was a pioneer in a lot of things, actually, and you know, to their credit, they were, much as I'm not a fan of the CEO and founder, I am a big fan of the company and what it did for the industry as a whole. He then, though, here's the thing. So when he finishes with his, big enterprise job, he decided, you know what, I'll create companies. And he kept creating companies that he sold. I think he sold 3 or 4 companies. I remember 2 of the companies he sold. One was sold to SAP, and then he worked for SAP for some short, required period of time, which as short as possible, always the best. And 2, he sold another one to NICE. And then he sold the third one. I don't remember to who, but he sold the third one. This guy, if he says, I'm going to do this, the best thing you could do is invest with him. Really. If you got the money and he wants some money to support, what he's doing too, although he could pretty well afford it himself, you just go with him because he's going to be right. I mean, no one's right 100% of the time, but he's pretty close. So now I saw this notification a few days ago, and I love this guy too. I mean, he's like just the other side with him. He's just a great guy to hang out with. You just always have a good time when he and I sit down and talk, although it's been a while since we've actually in person been able to do that. But he's come to the happy hours a few times, and it's always been a pleasure. And but I see this thing where he announces on LinkedIn that he's now created a company called Rocket Science, and he's now the CEO and founder of Rocket Science. So I want to find out what that's all about, and I want to talk about, I think we should talk about like serial entrepreneurship, and how you succeed as well as he has. So let's bring on my old buddy, Kevin Nix. There he is.
Paul, I love you and Brent, and thank you so much for the opportunity. It's really a privilege and an honor to be on your show. The thing that's funny is the name of the company is Rocket Surgery. I think I've screwed up the name.
Yeah.
Because the whole concept was, and I got this from a really good friend of mine who she basically made her shirt said it's not rocket surgery. And then they had a bunch of guys mansplaining her that she got it wrong. And I'm like, no, this is a great name because it's brain surgery meets rocket science. But I'm here to tell you, I might have to change the name of the company because it just, it's sort of, like.
It's a great Rocket Surgery. It happens to be a great name. I mean,
it's just hard. It screws up your synapses.
Well,
and by the way, Bob. Hello, Bob.
The other thing is, you kind of have to explain it to people, and that could be a little bit of an issue sometimes too. But
I know. Look at Paul, and by the way, we're going to go get coffee or something, or I'm taking you to a Giants-Yankees game or something like that. But
that was the other thing I didn't even mention about your diehard San Francisco.
I know.
Giants. I mean,
well, you're doing way better. You're doing way better than we are this year.
You and Sandy Lowe are arguably the 2 most diehard Giants fans I've ever met.
I know. It's brutal, man. This was like your brain, your body combusts on fire. It was a pretty tough year. But hey, listen, so thank you for letting me, get on your platform. And by the way, I love the green room. I love your system of how this works, because when you guys were talking about AI, it's a pretty good lead into the concept of my company, which is like, I would argue that AI, you could argue the merits and of AI in various different use cases, but it is the most challenging technology ever to be able to quality assure and quality engineer.
I can see
that's the basic premise. Think about it. We used to have development, unit test, integration test, staging for production, and then production. That is like software 101. That is the way all the executables would work. Now you have stuff that's in production that's changing in real time. And oh, by the way, have you ever used the word hallucination with software before?
Yeah.
Never.
No.
It's like, my software is hallucinating? What the hell is that all about, right? I mean, this is like uncharted territory. So I'm a huge fan of AI. I basically am an advisor for 3 AI companies. They all do different things, which is very cool. But the same promise and the same problem is true, which is like, how do I know it's right? The data dictates how the algorithm is going to work. Well, the data is changing all the time. Then I have code, maybe in Python, maybe in some other language, that I'm writing stuff, and I'm using an algorithm, maybe neural networks, maybe something else. And so I've got this multi-stage set of complexity that is so different from, I need to compile the software, I need to link the software, and then I create an executable and I put it out, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. It's completely different, completely different. And that's what rocket surgery is all about. It's like, this is going to take a different way of thinking. Because at the end of the day, you know what people do is they kind of go, oh, well, you know what? I look at the result and then I determine whether or not I think the result is right. I mean, let's be honest. This is different from reading a database and listing a set of opportunities, right? With CRM, we know that. SFA, we know that very well. Here's my opportunities. I read the database. Pretty much the data is good. There's access control on top of it, et cetera. This is a completely different use case for technology. And I think it's going to require different thinking in terms of, how do I know the quality of this system is good?
You know what?
It's hard.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, if you look at it, if you kind of step back and look at just the history of everything we've ever done, really, all of us, you realize that all these people are saying, well, we're the best at this, or we're the whatever at that. We're the only ones who are doing this. Or especially when they say we're the best. What criteria are you using to make that statement, right? Which is none as the actual answer, right? You're just saying, right? But that's been a continuous issue, is you make a claim, and it goes to your point about, we determine whether we feel that the data's output is right or not. And that's based on what? Our biases one way or the other, not on the data itself. But that also goes to a really interesting question and how you deal with this. So if we're going with this, because you always hear, the data is truth, and that's not true, right? That's not true at all. It never has been. You can find data to prove anything you want. So given that, because that's, to your point, an incredibly hard thing to solve, what is rocket surgery going to do to at least begin to solve that?
Well, there's some secret sauce here that's basically fermenting in the pot. So I don't want to give too much away. But what I would say is the following: I would say the first thing is, what's different about this problem is you had, again, a software. Typically, let's just go back to our, Brent and Paul, our days. Like, you do SQL statements, you read a database, and all this stuff. Then all of a sudden, it's like, well, wait a minute. I want, to your point, Brent, unstructured data, or I want data that's stored in many different places within the enterprise. So then you have this whole concept of data cataloging, right? And by the way, I would argue that AI is really not a huge step, because companies have been dealing with, and I've written about this a little bit. It's like, okay, so I got big data. That was the big, everyone's talking about big data, big data, big data, big data. I was in there as well with Stellar. Then you go, okay, why do I want big data? Because I want to do advanced analytics. Oh, then what I want to do is predictive analytics. So I want the data to not look backwards, but now to look forwards. Oh, then I want the machine to be smart. So now I want machine learning, right? And now AI is just the next step. But all those things, the breadcrumbs are pretty clear. It's like you started with this concept of big data, which then got into data cataloging. It got into, do I know the data? Can I get to the data? Do I trust the data? All those things, which then led to this cascade of a variety of different technologies and algorithms. And now we're just to the next stage, right? Like, generative AI is just the next stage of what kind of people have been thinking about for a while. But it's getting more and more complex, because now it's like, well, I think it's right. Do I know it's right? How do I test it's right? Those are all things that are And company. And by the way, the other thing, I was just off a con call with one of the companies I consult with. Let me ask a question back to you two. Name me one company that is not including some level of AI strategy, either internally or externally as a product. Name one company that's not thinking about that or doing something.
I can't.
There's not one.
Even the one we were talking about earlier, user testing, which is human-centered, is right. So they're doing something with it.
I think you won't be in business long if you aren't at least thinking about it.
Well, look, I mean, to your point, I've had people tell me, I say, well, why are you even bothering with AI? You're talking to like one-person companies, and they say, because we have to, quote unquote.
Exactly. It's exactly like big data. We have seen this movie time and time again. If you don't have a big data strategy, you're dead. So everyone went and they just chased big data. Whether it was a good idea or bad idea, they just did it. You had to do it. You had to have a story in your narrative. For your company, it's the same exact thing with AI. I mean, name me one company externally. I'll tell you the best, I'll give them a shout out. The best, it wasn't AI, it was really more machine learning, was the Shell Corporation oil rig story. And so what the story was, it's a very beautiful, simple use case. I'm in an oil rig, and you both work from CRM, and so am I. So we know all about preventative maintenance, field service, all these issues, right? The challenge is the supply chain to get to an oil rig is really tough. Right. So you're trying to figure out how many parts, how many repair parts, what predictive maintenance do I do so that I can keep this oil rig running? Because if I get broken, it is millions of dollars of cost. And Shell did a beautiful job of building an ML model around being able to anticipate the correct inventory, not too much, not too little, as well as the right level of preventative maintenance plus, the ability to do maintenance. That is a beautiful example. To your point, Paul, you talked about earlier when I was in the green room, it's like, let's use ML and AI a little interchangeably just for a moment. What are good use cases? That's a great use case.
One of the things that over the last couple of weeks, we've been having these conversations with folks that are, in the VC space, private equity, angel, but they're investing and they've been doing this for years around enterprise apps and startups and things like that. And it feels like, I know Keith Tier made a really big distinction last week. Keith Tier is one of the serial investor folks out there. And he made a big distinction between, I don't really use LLMs that much, but what I do use is machine learning and AI, for a kind of a general term. But it feels like a lot of people throw those terms around interchangeably, and you don't really know exactly what you're talking about if you just use them interchangeably, because they're not necessarily all doing the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think the big difference, and this is why I created Rocket Surgery, is the big difference is ML typically had a training database. So you had a static set of data, you built algorithms around it, and then you heard about terms like model drift, right? Oh, so we built a model, it's a good model, but as the data starts to change, the model becomes less accurate. So we need to refactor the model, right? That's hence the term model drift. I think the key thing that's different with generative AI is that the data is so fluid and so uncontrolled, especially if you're talking about the public domain, that, so you're right. They're not interchangeable, but they're definitely cousins, right? It's just a difference in terms of how the data is flowing into the algorithm. And by the way, I am no means going to be telling you I'm an expert in AI, but all of these have core algorithms behind them. The difference is just how it treats the data. And I think generative AI, which is, with ChatGPT, it's awesome. And by the way, I saw the latest, I was fortunate enough to see a beta version of Microsoft Copilot, which was your plug. So I'm going to give them a plug. I couldn't believe how good it was. It was unbelievable how good it was. But here's the key thing. You have to know how to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing with the companies I'm advising is they're preloading the right questions so that you don't have to be smart enough to ask the AI entity, if you will, Terminator, the right questions. And so because of that, you get a better answer right out of the box because you're using domain expertise combined with the large language model to actually generate a much better result than just ad hocing it.
To that point, I mean, let's go to the Copilot example for a minute. One of the things that's impressed me with Copilot is I don't think necessarily they're quite as, let's say, advanced as the companies you're advising in terms of preloading the right questions, but I know they're aware of it. And I know they're aware of it by the responses I get when I use it. Look, to me, Copilot power is that Microsoft is smart enough to make it ubiquitous. That's their idea. They're not focused on the enterprise. They're focused on the human species, pretty much, in terms of the way it's embedded in Windows. It's embedded in 365. It's embedded everywhere.
Right.
And I found myself personally, and I've mentioned this on the show multiple times, I don't even use Google search anymore, except on a rare occasion. I use Copilot for everything. I just go straight there on my phone, on my PC, on my Mac, or whatever. I'll use it. I find a place to use it, and the ubiquity of it is what's important. But what's interesting is I'm noticing with the new version of Copilot that they've just released, and this is not the plus version, this is free version, that I'm asking questions, and I'm asking them awkwardly, and it's answering them right. If you know.
Oh, wow.
It's working around my awkwardness basically and coming up with a something that if it was just responding as a reactive thing would have answered not necessarily incorrectly, but let's say not giving me the level of answer I'm actually looking for. And in this case, it's just working around me and getting it right. So it goes to your point. And if you got a company that's really focused in that world, that's amazing and smart too. Although the volume of meaning the number of the right question is, that's infinite. So I don't even know how you would do that.
Look at, and I like to consider myself a first grader in this thing. Tomas Tungus, I always screw up his name. Phenomenal analyst. I followed him forever. A shout out to Tomas on this. He wrote a great post on LinkedIn about prompts. Prompts are one of the key pieces of technology for AI to work properly.
Right.
And it is incredibly complex. And, his argument, which I buy, is it's a huge part of the IP of companies, of what they're doing. He basically analyzed the meta AI prompt. And it was like 606 words. And it was, I was learning as I was watching his post and reading his post. It's basically dictating how the AI engine is going to interact, to your point, Paul, with someone like, do this, but don't do this. Use location, but if you don't have location, use the person's current location. And if you don't have that location data, use his address if you have that. It's very, very interesting. And at the end of the day, I kind of go back to rocket surgery, which is like, okay, this is you never really had that in software before. I mean, you might have had a table of parameters and stuff like that, or, to configure whatever, but this is like new. The way we build software in AI is just different. And it's going to require a different way of thinking, a different way of testing, a different way of moving into production. In some cases, you don't stage to do the classic big lift into production. You're in production all the time, and the software is like changing all the time. You have to do things completely different from the classic compile, link, and execute. And that's what I think is why I was excited about building a company, because I'm like, okay, to your point, thank you for the flattery. It's like, find a problem, go fix the problem. People will like the solution, right? It's like, find problem, fix problem.
Done it with
Pretty
every
simple.
company I've ever seen.
So
Thank you.
I got a totally kind of different question, but it's one I've been asking a lot of folks over the last couple of years, really. particularly folks that have been in the industry for a while, and definitely you qualify for that. And so you've been there at the beginning.
Yeah, old man. Yeah, old man.
Thanks,
Hey,
man.
look, that's a compliment. It's like, are you looking at my beard? I mean, damn. So you've been
A lot of gray hair among the three of us.
you've been involved in the CRM space since the beginning. You've built companies, you've sold companies. And after listening to you here today, I have to say, like, the passion and the drive seems to still be there. I don't even know what it was like, 20, 30 years ago, but I could see what it's like now, and it's
always
very high. So I'm just curious, why are you still in the game? Is it just because of it's a special time and a special challenge? But what keeps you so motivated and I would say, like, really obsessed with what's going on?
It's funny because, as you get older, you get the opportunity, and I've been very fortunate in this, to advise people. They could be peers, they could be colleagues, they could be way younger than I am, etc. And the one thing that I've always advised is if you don't believe and feel passionately about the problem and the solution, you're just punching a clock.
Right.
It's no fun. I mean, it's just literally no fun. You might, make the, your monthly nut or whatever, but it's no fun. So every single company I've created, I'll do a quick synopsis. Sky Data. What was the problem? The problem was we built mobile business applications at Siebel that cost companies hundreds of thousands of dollars that it was hard to get IT to finance. This is, again, before the iPhone. That's a very important point. So our concept was we're going to build a business application that's as easy to download as a ringtone, because that's the only thing people were downloading before the iPhone was a ringtone. And that was the concept of Sky Data, provide value on BlackBerry and then, Windows, and then finally the iPhone. And then SAP got it, and then they bought the company. The other one, which was Stellar Loyalty, those are the two organic companies that I've founded and sold. It was like, okay, consumer CRM, we're all CRM people in this call. The problem with consumer CRM is, like, people don't want to share their stuff. So how do you incentivize them? And yes, there's loyalty and points and rewards, and that was actually the tertiary benefit. The big benefit was getting them engaged, getting them to, and you can see this, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Starbucks is probably the best consumer CRM app I've ever seen. Why? Because it solved the problem of payment. They made it mission critical around payment, which was awesome, because then you unlock all this other stuff. Hey, get stars. For this week, you do this. If you do this and do that, it was beautiful. And so that was the concept of Stellar Loyalty, was consumer CRM. That was literally basically the investment thesis. So I get excited about, like, when you see a problem or a challenge in the industry and you go, wow. And then to your point, Brent and Paul, it's like, okay, who's doing AI today? Well, guess what? It's the freaking Earth. So the market size is basically the freaking Earth. I kind of like that. There's nothing wrong with having an Earth-sized market sizing. Yeah. So, and it's a problem. I mean, let's just say I have some secret sauce, but at the same point in time, I'm not going to tell you if I have it totally mapped out, but it is a challenge. It's like, well, how do you, like, believe your AI? Well, I just look at it, kind of seems like the right answer. Why do you know it's hallucinating? Well, if it says 14 million versus, 1 million, that could be a problem. That is the science. This is why it's rocket surgery. It's basically brain surgery meets rocket science. It's like, it's a pretty hard problem.
So
it's a pretty hard problem.
Are you, like, officially launched and you have employees and staff and a CMO and whatever?
I am in the Romulan cloaking device mode right now. That's what I'll tell you. What I will tell you is, definitely made some progress. It's helpful that I've been advising 3 different AI companies, which, by the way, are really doing exciting stuff. I don't want to plug them here because it would take too much time, but they're all attacking a domain. I think that's the key. If anyone's listening and they're like, oh, I want to use AI, and I like to call it internal versus external. Internal is I have a company problem. How do I use AI to solve that problem? External is like, let's use Salesforce, Einstein. I want to make this a product to make my customers' employees more successful. Both of those are very valid. The key is you still have the same problem, which is how do I know it's working? How can I trust the data? If the data is going to change by definition, that's what AI does, which is what's so cool about it. But it's also the challenge. It's not traditional software. It's not like your database schema is changing every minute, right? You have a very structured environment that you build software and you target it for. And that was the way I know, gray hair, I grew up with, but it's completely different with AI. So that's what's cool.
This is a completely non-related question, except who is the CMO at Stellar Loyalty for you again?
Narina Sippy.
No, that was Norina. Because I remember
she did great. She's over at ServiceNow.
I know that. I've seen it. We've seen
phenomenal woman. Just
I remember
one of the best marketing people I've ever worked with.
At some restaurant at a hotel when you founded Stellar Loyalty. I came over and met the two of you, and and I remember you didn't tell me Norina was your CMO, and I knew her from prior years.
Sure, SAP and Siebel.
Oh, yeah.
I know. It's it's a small world we all orbit around, isn't it? It really is.
But it's such a nice world in that regard.
It is. And I mean, a lot of really talented people that I had the privilege to work with at Siebel or at ServiceNow and at Salesforce. Obviously, Velocity got bought. David Schmeier's company got bought by Salesforce. So and of course, Bob Stutz has been he's like a guru, 5-level echelon dude in the CRM space. But at the end of the day, it's a great thing about it's a great feeling and also responsibility when you work for a quality company. And I know, Paul, you had some issues with Tom. I get it. But at the end of the day, I will tell you, at the end of the day, he built a great company. He has done it again with C3.ai. I mean, working style can always be discussed, but at the end of the day, the guy is one of the most talented guys I've ever had the privilege to work for.
I will say this, and I've said it. Look, I think Siebel, without Siebel, there is no CRM industry. It would never be an industry. It was the reason for it, and it built what might be the most enduring products I've ever seen. I mean, people still use Siebel Contact Center 25 years ago.
I know. And that was my product. Remember, you introduced me as the VP but you remember, I think when we first, I'll give you a minor correction. When we first met, I was running, basically Siebel Service, which was really challenging because it was Siebel Sales Information Systems. That was the card. I'm like, are you guys committed to service? I mean, what's going on? So it is honestly, and I give Mark Benioff as another hero of mine because, we had to compete with him and he did guerrilla marketing better than anyone I've ever seen in my life. Yep. But the dude, I would argue, created application clouds. I mean, you could debate that a little bit, but at the end of the day, he had a vision, and that inspires me because that's what I want to do. I want to build companies that have this need. And recapping, sorry, I mean, we're probably close to time. It's like, okay, Siebel Systems, CRM, great product, awesome product. It took time to implement. It was costly. You'd have to go to Accenture and say, oh, it's going to cost you $5 million to implement our software above and beyond our license fees. And then people are going, I want my SFA now. And Mark stepped right in there and said, you know what? I can give you SFA right now. I just turn it on. It's $50 a user a month. And if you hate it, fire me. And I swear to God, I mean, the guy cleaned a clock.
I know. It was I had the Siebel CD with the personal edition of SFA. I actually had that. That was so bad. It was like the enterprise edition on a CD for one person, right? But it took about as long to implement as the enterprise edition.
Look at every good company has really bad ideas, and mine included. And I can guarantee you, we had many bad ideas at Siebel.
Yeah.
And
Still, to your point, the most seminal company in the CRM industry was Siebel. Salesforce probably number 2 in that regard. There was no Salesforce without Siebel either, right? So, I mean, Siebel to me, again, couldn't stand the owner, couldn't stand the founder. I mean, I still don't. Can't stand him.
But yeah, I'll tell you one thing about Tom, which was, not the easiest guy to work for. But one thing that I learned about Tom that has taken me into all my different, careers, if you will, and that is, if you knew what you were doing, and if you were prepared, and you had the information, and you were running your business, the meeting was very smooth. Where he lost it was like, you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the information, and he had a low tolerance factor for that. But you know what? I would handle it differently. But what I learned from that is like, that is why the quality of our products, and this goes into David Schmeier as well, who was my direct boss forever, which is like, I mean, yeah, he was a kinder, gentler Tom. Let's just call him that. I love that dude. He was such a mentor and coach for me. But he was like, look, you need to like know your stuff, be prepared, run your business, know what's going on. And I would give Tom and David the credit that they reinvented product marketing and product management as you're the CEO of your business line.
Yeah,
it isn't like you're just some weird conduit between sales and engineering. It's like, no, you're responsible for the number, even though sales doesn't report to you and engineering doesn't report to you. You have to make this thing happen. And that culture, I give Tom and David a tremendous amount of credit. That was, and Bob will attest to this, right? This was the secret sauce, because you had to really think like a mini CEO for your product line. And Bob has done this many times in his career. So
he's like you, he's figured out the best of those things and done them the right way, right?
Okay,
as opposed to the other things, which would completely
the greatest hits, hits, if you will.
Yes, got them right. And thanks, man. Thank you so much for being here. I am so happy you're on. Can't tell you. It was so exciting.
Thank you so much for the last minute invite.
I've been thinking about once I saw your announcement about rocket surgery, I've just been thinking about it ever since. And this seemed like such a great opportunity. So if you're open to it, we'll have you on again sometime.
Of course. I'm going to get T-shirts printed, because you need a T-shirt to actually look down at your navel and go, oh, it's rocket surgery. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm working on that. That's the first. My highest priority is the tchotchke. Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Pleasure. Let us know when those T-shirts are out, because
Okay. No, I'll send them to you. I'll figure it a way. All right. Cheers.
Bye. All right. So on behalf of Kevin Nix, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and if you're in Austin, Texas next week, maybe we'll see you.
But in the
meantime, where is she? There she is. Now we can officially say, go Rams tonight.
Go Rams, and go Yankees tomorrow.
See ya.